Alright, today in the shop we have this 84 944. Hey guys, today I'm bringing this early silver 944 into the shop. It's an 84 model. It has early sport seats, a sunroof delete, and fuchs wheels. Alright guys, what I'm going to be doing here is going through the car and seeing what needs to be repaired. It already feels like the motor mounts are worn completely out because I feel every vibration from the engine, and the steering wheel has a load of play in it. I can just take it and do this. So it's just this massive dead spot in the steering wheel. So doing a review on it right now wouldn't be fair to it. However, outside of that, the car does drive excellent. It's quiet and smooth. The sport seats aren't really all that nice if you're over 190 pounds, but you do kind of get used to them. But other than that, it's a really great car, and I'm hoping to dig in and get these things fixed. See the dead spot in the wheel here. Just do that. And the car doesn't react. So on the way back to the shop, I actually ran into another 944. It's a turbo model. Let's see, I might turn in here and see what he says. Alright, I was just driving along after picking up that car, and I ran into the guy that owns the turbo. We stopped and talked for a while. Nice black leather seats in there. The car looks great. Alright, today in the shop we have this 84 944. It's a pretty unique car. It's a sunroof delete model and has the early sport seats and staggered fuchs. Don't come across cars with these options very often. Overall, the body's pretty straight, and as you can see, the interior is very clean. So what I'm going to be doing to this car is replacing the belts, rollers, and water pump. There is also a coolant leak around the temp sensor, so I'm going to be looking into that. And then he told me to just go through the car, and anything else that I find, go ahead and fix it. So that's what we're going to be doing. So here's a quick look under the hood. See, everything looks nice and clean as well. Look at how clean the wires are. So there is a coolant leak. You can see it here, right in through there, right below the button sensor there. And I'm not sure exactly where it's coming from yet, but I'm going to try and get everything off in a little while and take a look down in there and see where it's coming from. I thought before I did that, since this car runs and drives fine and doesn't really lose much coolant, it might be best to just get the front end jacked up and see what's going on with the steering, so that way I can try and see if replacing the ball joints if needed will fix the issue. Then I can just drive it around, take it for a spin before trying to tear the engine apart and then finding out a week later that the ball joints didn't actually do any good. So I thought that's what I'd do first. Alright, after checking the ball joints at the wheel and the tie rod ends, we found the culprit here. The tie rod itself on this side is completely wore out, so we're going to replace it, and that should fix the steering. Alright, now that we figured out the steering, what we're going to do is order new tie rods, and while those are coming in, we figured we could just go ahead and dig right into the belts and water pump. So we're going to start by removing the air box here. Alright, we've got the air box out, and we got the belts off, and with the J-boot out of the way, I was able to actually get a better look down here where the coolant leak is, and I think that it is in fact coming from the head gasket there. You can see how it's a little bit crusty right there in that area, so we're going to try and pull the head and see what's going on there. Alright, we got the intake off now. And now we have a better look at this leak here, which I believe is coming from the head gasket. As you can see, that dried area between the head and the block. So what we're going to do is get the belts off now and see if we can get this head off. Alright, I just removed the triple square bolt from the cam sprocket and got it removed. I'm getting ready to take the cam tower off now. And here's the tool I'm going to be using to remove the cam tower. Up here on the top, you'll want a very long hex key bit, and you'll want the type that doesn't have the ball on the end because they have a tendency to break off in the bolt head, and then you're going to end up having to drill it out, which is a complete nightmare. Now for the bottom bolts, what I'm going to be using is this short bit, and I have a wobble extension, and you'll especially want that wobble extension when it gets back to the last one back here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's right up against the firewall there, so it makes getting in there really hard, even with a universal joint. And if you're not dead straight on it, you can strip that bolt right out. And I have had some luck before using a Torx that was a little bit bigger and getting it down in there and getting that bolt out, but your best bet is to go with the wobble extension, and I'll save you a lot of headache. So I now have the cam tower off and the exhaust unbolted. What I'll do is spray PB Blaster on the nuts and let them sit for a minute, and then I'll wear rubber gloves so that way it doesn't make a huge mess. And when you're working with these early cast headers, they are really hard to get to these nuts, especially like right in here. So what I had to do was grind down just an old spare wrench that I had, and that allowed it to, let's see, fit right in there, and I was able to get the nut off. But this worked perfectly, so it's something to keep in mind whenever you're working with these early cast headers, because they are really fat and it doesn't give you a lot of room to work. Another thing is, you will sometimes have the nut just about ready to come off, and then it hits the header there and you won't be able to get it off. So what you have to do in that case is get all the nuts off and then pull it back like I've done there, and that'll allow you to have plenty of clearance to remove the nuts. So alright, the next step is to remove the head, but before I can do that I need to drain the block of all the coolant. Even though I've got the radiator drained, it doesn't seem to have affected the block any, and I even drained the water pump down there. You can see the hose is off down there as well, but I still have coolant in the block. So now that the headers are free, I'm going to try and get to that drain that's back there. So alright, I thought I would just show you on the spare block. Here is the drain here that I'm going to be removing, and that will drain all the coolant out of the block in the head. Alright, the fluid is drained, so let's get this head off. Alright, so I'm going to be breaking the nuts free with my 25-inch breaker bar. And as always, you want to remove them in the same order you torqued them down. Alright, we just got the head off and everything looks good. Alright, here's a look at the engine with the head off. You can see that the cylinders are in excellent condition, so that's good news. It does appear to be the original gasket that I left the factory with, so there's no wonder that it's leaking. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is get this head gasket off and start cleaning everything up so we can get it back together. Alright, so I got the head off last night. You can see the head gasket there. This is the area in which it was leaking. And I'm actually going to take this off. I do believe this was an original head gasket. I'm going to be cleaning off the block today and getting all that gasket material off there. thought we'd flip this gasket over here and get a good look at where it was leaking at. So another thing I'm going to be looking at today are the engine mounts. Way back in there you can see the passenger mount, and you can see that it's cracked and it is completely collapsed. When that happens, you feel every vibration in the cabin. And here's the driver's side here, and you can see that it's still in pretty good shape. So my original intent here was to save the owner some money and just swap in a good used set that I had laying around. These came out of that white 924S, but I hadn't really taken a close look at them, and once I had, I realized the passenger side mount on that one was collapsed as well, and you can see what it looks like, and if I squeeze it, it moves around. This is the driver's side mount, and you can see how it still sits up real nice, and you can't move it if you squeeze it. So since his driver's side still looks good, I'm just going to replace his passenger. I mean, it'll fix the issue that he's having, and may last him a little while. So alright, we got the old motor mount out. I removed the two nuts on top there, and then there's a 17mm nut here, and I was able to get it with my 17mm ratcheting wrench. And then we lifted the engine up like this, very delicately, and then we just slid the motor mount out. Now we're getting ready to put the one in. Right, I now have the replacement engine mount in, and this is going to make this engine feel a whole lot smoother. Someone had asked me a while back in the comments section about how to replace the engine mounts, and normally I do it while I have the engine out, but in this case I'm not removing the engine, so I had to do it with the engine in place. Now, I was fortunate enough to already have the head off and have the exhaust loose, which made this job so much easier. But if that's not the case, then I would just recommend lifting the engine up and removing the cross member and doing it that way. Alright, here's the engine mount that I pulled from the passenger side, and as you can see, this one uses a long bolt and nut on each side to mount it to the car. And it's a little different than the one that I put in here. This one is from an 87 924S, and you can see that the mounts look a little different, especially here, and that's not where all the differences end. This is the bolt that goes to this one here, and as you can see, now when it goes in the car, it's not threaded there, and it goes straight in and stops about there, and then you'll put a nut on there. However, if you use this on this engine mount here, this actually will thread in and go all the way down until it starts puncturing the mount, which you don't want. So I had to use the bolts that came off this car, which are these here, and you can see how much shorter they are. But anyway, these thread in and they stop about right there. Alright guys, I haven't had a chance to remove the oil cooler housing yet, but I did go ahead and remove the tie rod on this side. As always, I'm going to be replacing the 5R housing on the car with the 6R. Normally I just go ahead and remove the headers, and I intended to, but the bolts are just so rusty that I is either going to have to cut them off or drill them out, and I just didn't want to mess with it, so I just left them alone, and I'm just going to have to work around them. I was able to get the mount on with the headers on, and I should be able to get the oil cooler housing out once I get the water pump off. But in order to do that, tomorrow I'm going to have to put the flywheel lock on and remove the front bolt and pulleys. Then I can remove this belt cover here to access the water pump. Once it's removed, I should be able to unbolt the oil cooler housing and then slide it forward, and that's how I have to do it for now. But anyway guys, that's going to do it for now. I'm going to clean up and call it a night. And I guess that's where I'll end this first video here. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. So if you'd like to stay up to date with what's going on in the shop, be sure to check out my Twitter and Facebook page. I'm also doing some t-shirts for the channel, and you can find everything in the links below.